Fine. Now, we proceed with the third SEM syllabus of mathematics. We have 4 units altogether. Unit 1 and 2, real analysis. Unit 3 and 4, differential equations. I will be covering Unit 1 and 2. Unit 1 is sequences. Unit 2 is infinite series. Today in the very first class, we shall discuss what is a sequence, what is the nth term of a sequence, what are the bounds of a sequence, when do you say that a sequence is bounded above, bounded below, or bounded, and what do you mean by convergence of a sequence, and some illustration examples we will discuss, plus two small theorems we will study today in the very first session. So listen carefully. What's a sequence? It's a mapping from the set of natural numbers to the set of real numbers. With each natural number, we are associating a real number. Right? A sequence is denoted by the symbol within a brackets, flower bracket, Sn, where n belongs to capital N. N is a natural number. When n is equal to 1, we have the first term of the sequence, S1. When n equal to 2, the second term of the sequence, S2, S3, S4, etc. Sn is the nth term of the sequence. We don't stop with Sn, it continues. Because natural number is an infinite set. The number of terms of the sequence is also infinite. What's the range of the sequence? Range of the sequence is the members of the sequence or terms in the sequence. The terms in the sequence is the range of the sequence. Range may be either finite or infinite, but it cannot be empty. Okay? So sequence is a mapping from set of natural numbers to the set of real numbers. It is denoted by the symbol within the brackets. We read it as sequence Sn, where n is a natural number. These are the terms S1, S2, etc. are the terms of the sequence. Sn being the nth term, a number of terms certainly infinite. The range is nothing but the number of terms of the sequence that may be either finite or infinite. What do you mean by bounds of a sequence? Sequence is bounded above, sequence is bounded below, or sequence is bounded. A sequence is bounded above if there exists a real number k, so that every term of the sequence is less than or equal to k. If every term is less than or equal to k, it is bounded above. It is bounded below if every term of the sequence is greater than or equal to k. Right? Bounded above means wall on the right, bounded below, wall on the left. If there is an upper bound, capital K is an upper bound. Bounded from above means upper bound. Bounded below means lower bound. If you have an upper bound as well as lower bound, then the sequence is said to be bounded. Understand? Bounded means bounded above as well as bounded below. So sequence bounded means its range is also bounded, because the number of terms in the sequence is the range. Range is nothing but members of the sequence. When the sequence is bounded, range is also bounded. You look at the example of minus 1 power n. When n equal to 1, the term is minus 1. N equal to 2 plus 1, minus 1, plus 1, minus 1. These are the terms of the sequence. You find only two terms here, minus 1 and 1. So range is, while writing range, you are not taking any repetitions of the values. Non-repeated values here. You are having only two values, minus 1 and 1. Range is finite. But sequence is certainly infinite. Range is finite. See, every member of the sequence minus 1 power n lies between minus 1 and plus 1. Therefore, it is bounded above, it is bounded below, and hence sequence is a bounded sequence. Bounded means bounded above as well as bounded below. Right? So, minus 1 to the power n is a sequence which is bounded. Look into another example, 1 by n, sequence 1 by n. Assign values for n. When n equal to 1, it is 1 by 1, 1 by 2, 1 by 3, 1 by 4. As n is increased, 1 by that is getting reduced. Can it be ever 0? For any value of n, where the term is 0? No. It will be very close to 0 but not equal to 0. Therefore, all the terms of the sequence lies to the right of 0 and to the left of 1. 1 is a member of the sequence. It is upper bound. 1 is an upper bound of the sequence. 0 is a lower bound. Here the lower bound need not be always lower bound or upper bound. They may or may not be the members of the sequence. Here 0 is not a member of the sequence, but 1 is a member of the sequence. In fact, the sequence is bounded above by 1, bounded below by 0. It's a bounded sequence. Okay. See, if 1 is an upper bound, what about 1.5, what about 2, 3, 4, etc.? They are all upper bounds. Any value greater than 1 is also an upper bound. Any value less than 0 is also a lower bound. It's alright? Okay. Look at the sequence where Sn equal to 1. Every term value is 1 here. There are infinitely many terms. See, though the value is 1, the value is same. They are different terms. First term is 1. Fifth term is 1. 10th term is 1. They are different terms. So there are infinitely many terms, absolutely. But it is not bounded, it is unbounded. Okay. Now, after going through 2-3 examples here, you are having other examples, you can refer to the notes. Look into the definition of convergence of a sequence. Last year you have studied epsilon delta definition, right? Here epsilon m definition you are having for a convergence of a sequence. A sequence Sn is said to converge to the limit L, to mean that limit of Sn is L. It is converging, tending to L. When? If for given epsilon, you know the symbol epsilon? For each epsilon greater than 0, there exists a positive integer m such that the difference between absolute value, the difference between the term value and limit value is less than epsilon for every n greater than or equal to m. Mod Sn minus L less than epsilon for every n greater than or equal to m. What do you mean by this? N is the number of terms. For a value to the right of m, the term value and limit value, they come very, very close. The difference between term value and limit value is very, very less than epsilon. Epsilon means it's the smallest positive number. It's a very, very small positive number. Say it's of the orders like 0.001, 0.0001, etc. It can be very small as you please. You can choose it as small as you please. So epsilon is the smallest, very, very small positive number. If you are able to make the difference between the term value and the limit value very, very small, then you say that a sequence Sn is converging to L or it has a limit L. Is it clear? Repeat. A sequence Sn is said to converge, tend to L, has a limit L. Right? If you can make the difference mod Sn minus L less than epsilon for every n greater than or equal to m. So you take m equal to 100 after 100th term. Right? If you pick any term after 100th term, the difference between that term value and the limit value is very, very, very small. This is to mean that the sequence is converging to L. Okay, look here. If a sequence is converging to L for any epsilon greater than 0 or for given epsilon greater than 0, at most a finite number of terms lies outside this interval, L minus epsilon and L plus epsilon. It's a small neighborhood of L. L plus epsilon, L minus epsilon. Epsilon is very, very small. It's a very small interval. Infinitely many terms lies inside the interval. If infinitely many terms are very close to L, we say that sequence is converging to L. This is to mean that only finite number of terms are allowed to be outside. If finite number of terms are allowed to be outside, infinitely many are inside, then we say that sequence is converging to L. Suppose infinitely many terms are moving outside here. Infinitely many terms are moving outside the interval. Then we say that sequence cannot converge to L. Then we understand that sequence cannot converge to L. Sequence would converge to L only when infinitely many terms are inside this open interval. Only finite are outside. If infinitely many are outside, then sequence cannot converge to L. It's clear? Convergence. Convergence is tending to the limit L. Okay. Just look at two theorems here. Very simple, important theorems for you. The first 3-mark question for you for this semester. For the third semester, the first 3-mark question guaranteed. It's for 2020 December question paper. Okay. Every convergent sequence is bounded, you have to prove. Assume that sequence Sn is converging to L. Then by the definition, what do you have? For given epsilon greater than 0, however small as you please, there exists a positive integer m, so that modulus Sn minus L is less than epsilon for every n to the right of m, every n greater than or equal to m. What do you mean by saying that mod x less than a? Mod x less than a means what? X lies between minus a and plus a. Similarly, Sn minus L lies between minus epsilon and plus epsilon. Adding L on either side, L minus epsilon less than Sn less than L plus epsilon for all n greater than or equal to m. That is, Sn lies between L minus epsilon and L plus epsilon. Sn andre terms of the sequence. Sn means terms of the sequence. Terms of the sequence lies between L minus epsilon and L plus epsilon. Okay. See here, to the right of m you have said. To the right of m, the first m values, first m minus 1 values you have not considered. First m minus 1 values you have not considered here. Right? So among the first m minus 1 values, say S1, S2, etc., Sm minus 1, and the one you are having to the left of Sn is L minus epsilon. Right? L minus epsilon is a value to the left of Sn, plus you are having m minus 1 values. Among these values, whichever smaller is there, minimum is there, least is there, call it as small g. See here, L plus epsilon is to the right of the term. Sn right ali alva. So L plus epsilon and the first m minus 1 values which are kept outside, that is S1, S2, etc., Sm minus 1. The first m minus 1 value and this value is already to the right of Sn. Among these values, whichever larger, call it as capital G. Here, whichever smaller, call it as small g. So that every term Sn lie between smaller value and larger value like this. Small g to the left, capital G to the right. So G is an upper bound, small g is a lower bound. It is bounded above, sequence is bounded below. If it is bounded above as well as bounded below, then we say that sequence is bounded. So if a sequence is convergent, then it is bounded. Every convergent sequence is bounded. You understand? You assume that sequence is convergent to L, then by definition mod Sn minus L will be less than epsilon for every n greater than or equal to m. This is to mean that your Sn minus L lies between minus epsilon and plus epsilon. Adding L on either side, you get this inequality. Now the question, which one you would like to take minimum value and which one you would like to take maximum value? You take small g as minimum value of the one which is already there in the left, L minus epsilon. And here, this is happening to the right of m. So first m minus 1 values are there. First m minus 1 values are there. First m minus 1 values are there. S1, S2, Sm minus 1. These already to the left. Among these, the smallest, the minimum is taken as G, and this is L plus epsilon is to the right. And first m minus 1, fortunately or unfortunately, if the first m minus 1 value contains one of the larger value, you take it as maximum of all the values here, call it as G. Hence, every term will lie between small g and capital G. Sequence is bounded above and bounded below, and hence it is bounded. Is that clear? Now we come to the second theorem. Till there we are going to discuss our today's first session. I will end with this theorem. Hopefully you are not tired right now. Right? If you are tired, please ask your mom for some coffee or snacks. Okay. Now, a theorem second. A sequence cannot converge to more than one limit. What do you mean by more than one limit? Not possible more than one limit means it has to converge to only one limit, unique limit. A sequence has to converge to unique limit. That's what you have to prove. It cannot converge to more than one limit. Okay. In mathematics, suppose you are not able to give a proof directly. How do you give the proof? Have you not heard of a term? Reductio ad absurdum. Reductio ad absurdum. Okay, means proving a result in mathematics by using indirect method. Okay, by assuming the contrary. That is reductio ad absurdum. Okay. So here actually you want to prove that it cannot converge to more than one limit. Take a challenge. Suppose you want to jump down from a fifth floor to the ground floor. Fifth floor to the ground. Assume the contrary. Assume that you are able to jump. What happens? Suppose if you jump, your legs will be broken, hands will be broken, head will be smashed. Then what conclusion you are drawing? You say that you are arriving at a contradiction. Right? You get a contradiction. You find some difficulty. Why the difficulty? Because you have made a wrong assumption. Wrong assumption leads to difficulty. Here also, we are assuming, let us assume that the sequence converges to two limits, L and L dash. So you have to reach a contradiction. Once you reach a contradiction, what you are going to conclude? Our initial assumption is wrong. It should have converged to one limit. Converging to two limits, such an assumption is wrong. Therefore, theorem is proved. This is the indirect method. Okay. It is known as reductio ad absurdum. You just refer in Google. Okay. And find out what you mean by reductio ad absurdum. Fine. If the sequence Sn converges to the two limits L and L dash, already you have gone to the definition of convergence by using epsilon m definition. Mod Sn minus L less than epsilon for all n greater than or equal to some positive integer m1. Mod Sn minus L dash less than epsilon for all n greater than or equal to m2. So the terms of the sequence, infinitely many terms of the sequence should lie in this interval. That's what we have said earlier. Infinitely many terms of the sequence should lie in the interval. Okay, here as well as with L dash also. But first you take the first one. Infinitely many terms lies in the interval L minus epsilon, L plus epsilon. By saying that infinitely many terms lies inside this open interval, what do you mean? You mean that only finite number of terms are outside. Infinitely many inside, only finitely many outside. If only finitely many outside, you just look at L and L dash. Look at the neighborhood of L. This is L minus epsilon, L plus epsilon. L minus epsilon, L plus epsilon. Neighborhood of L dash. L dash minus epsilon, L dash plus epsilon. Do you find any common value here? No, because when a sequence is converging to L means infinitely many terms are accumulated or clustered or gathered around a point, isn't it? Therefore, there is no common point between these two intervals. Okay? If infinitely many terms of the sequence lies in this interval, what about the other interval? For the other interval, only a finite number of terms will be there. That's a contradiction actually. That is a contradiction to the fact number 2. Right? In fact number 2, what did you say? Infinitely many terms are also here. Right? If you take infinitely many terms in the first interval, only finite are left out. It has to come and sit in the second interval. But it's a contradiction to the fact that mod Sn minus L dash is also less than epsilon for all n greater than or equal to m2. Right? Why this contradiction? Because you are assuming that the sequence is converging to two limits, L and L dash. Therefore, the sequence cannot converge to more than one limit. It has to converge to a unique limit. I'm sure that you will be having some doubt in this theorem because I would like to repeat it. You just listen to this. Assume that the sequence is converging to two limits, L and L dash. Converging to a limit L means by definition what you know. Mod Sn minus L less than epsilon for all n greater than or equal to some positive integer m1. A sequence is converging to L dash, what do you mean? Mod Sn minus L dash less than epsilon for all n greater than or equal to m2. You may take a maximum of m1 and m2 as m. Of course, I have not written here. You may take the larger of these two as m. But also, okay, fine. But first inequality says that Sn belongs to the open interval L minus epsilon and L plus epsilon for every n greater than or equal to m1. Convergence to L means infinitely many terms of the sequence lies in this interval. This implies only a finite number of terms lies outside the interval. A finite number of terms lies outside the interval as the intersection of these two interval is empty set. There is no common points here. The other interval should contain, the second interval should contain only finite number of terms, which is not true as far as the reference number 2 says. As far as reference number 2, this inequality also says that there are infinitely many terms inside L dash minus epsilon and L dash plus epsilon. Right? Understand? The first inequality says that there are infinitely many terms here. So only finite number of terms should be outside. Since the intersection is empty, it follows that the other interval should contain only finite number of terms. But this is a contradiction to 2. This is something against the fact mentioned in reference number 2. Why this contradiction? The contradiction due to our wrong assumption that sequence Sn converges to two limits L and L dash. Therefore, a sequence cannot converge to more than one limit. It should have unique limit point. It should have only one limit point. You can refer the notes where I have sent separately the detailed notes of this, by referring which things will be more clear. And if you have any doubts, still you can clarify. But just look at the last two theorems. If you combine the two theorems and make a single statement, it could be like every convergent sequence is bounded and has a unique limit. So what did you prove in the first theorem? Every convergent sequence is bounded. What is in the second theorem? What is the statement of second theorem? A sequence cannot converge to more than one limit. To mean that a sequence converges to only one limit. A sequence converges to unique limit. Combine the two theorems. Every convergent sequence is bounded, and also a sequence cannot converge to more than one limit can be combined like every convergent sequence is bounded and has a unique limit point. This is a remark you have right here. So we are completing today's session. So you have some 4 pages of notes which is already sent to you. Please refer the notes and write it in your notebook if possible immediately or within few minutes from now, and also find out whether still any gaps are there, anything to be filled, anything not comfortable. Please put a message either in the group or to my personal WhatsApp, or if you want to call and clarify immediately, if you cannot wait, if you are very eager to finish it off, you can certainly give a call anytime, any place, right? Your calls will be attended, your doubts will be attended. But let us see that this type of sessions are going to be a successful one, right, with your cooperation. But please make it a point. You have to take the studies very, very seriously, right? The mathematics class, hopefully this is the first class you are facing for third semester. This will continue, and we might be able to finish both the units for third sem before college reopens after COVID pandemic difficulties. Let's see. However, your cooperation is solicited. Thank you. Till the next session. Bye.